Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovesi, and I hope you're joining us live right now as we go live every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing you amazing, amazing guests. You know, the Master Connector Show is about connecting authentically with people. It's not just about networking or even relationships, which are great, but really connecting at a level where you can level up your skill sets, further your opportunity, get with great people who can help you do that. Because, you know, you can do some pretty incredible stuff on your own, but if you want to really do something big, you're going to need other people. And the people are one of the best resources. So look, join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m., like I said, because we are bringing you great guests. Bookmark it on your calendar, as a matter of fact, so you don't miss it. But look, if you can't make every week, we get it. You're busy. You're doing your thing. Go to masterconnector.show. See the roster of guests that we have coming up, and we're booked throughout the year and into next year with people who are at the tops of their fields, authors, speakers, CEOs, podcast hosts, you name it, people who have accomplishments. And they're going to teach you from their stories, their skill sets, and their experiences about what you need to fill in those gaps between your knowledge, right? So that's what it's all about. Masterconnector.show. And if you want to be a guest or sponsor an episode, you can click the tabs on there as well. You know, me and my co-host, Steve, we've been friends for 27 years. It's been a long time. Two former shy guys, two introverts who overcame shyness. We're still introverted because it's an energy thing. Because now we're podcast hosts and we're meeting people every single week and talking with them to connect with them, to connect you with them. So listen, audience, get in the comments, tell us where you're from, ask questions, connect with each other, connect with our guests, because we want you to be able to connect. That's what the Master Connector Show is all about. So speaking of Master Connector, let's bring him on, the Master Connector, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's up, Robbie G? You know what? It's been funny. We've had some incredible guests, and I think we were speaking the other day, and maybe yesterday, I don't remember, but you know, one of the values of this show, you said, is, you know, the incredible people you've gotten to meet. So it's just a value. And you don't have to be a host like Rob and I to take advantage of the incredible guests. Just reach out, connect with them. They want you to connect with them. That's why they're on the show. Anyway, appreciate you, buddy, big time. What's going on, everyone? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And I first, I want to welcome Ben. Ben's on the show. I think it's first time. Ben, great having you on here. I know we had a connect call just the other day, but here's the question for you guys, okay? What happens, or what would happen if just for one day you choose to look for the good instead of the bad? You know, we live in a crazy society today, crazy world, lots of stuff, and it's so easy to get consumed by the negative and have that sort of negative perspective. And, you know, it's why I chose years back to not watch the news. And like, people come to me like, Steve, did you hear about that? No. Did you hear about? No. Like, what do? You live under a rock? Yeah. And I choose to live under a rock because, you know what? If it's that important, someone's going to tell me about it. All right. I don't have to hear about it on the news. But I tell you what, it's been an on purpose thing, because you know what? When you just focus on the negative, it just taints your brain and taints your mind. And so we're going to talk a lot about how to see the good in things and in others. You know, I'm re-listening to a book, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale's great book. I highly recommend it. It was recommended to me years ago. You know, there's so many things. And listen, I got to say, I'm a recovering negative guy, if you want to say that, right? I was the guy that a lot of times you would see, you know, the negative of situations, right? And if you know the DISC personality, I'm, you know, it's DISC, and the D is decisive, I is inspiring, S is supportive, and C is calculating and cautious. And I have a lot of C in me, which means that I'm analytical to a degree, which means I'm looking often for the bad in things. And listen, I said in a post just this week, what you seek or look for, you're going to find. So if you want to find negative in something, you're going to find it. But if you want to look for the positive, you're going to find it too. And you know what? I've learned, yes, there's some negative and some evil stuff, but you know what? In general, number one, everything I found eventually works out. So look for the good, because it's always going to work out if you look for the good. And also in people fundamentally are good people. Maybe they've had some bad situations. I remember hearing my mentor say years ago, he said, Steve, if you were to walk in that person's shoes their entire life, lived exactly what they lived, and you were inside their skin, so to speak, experiencing it, would you be any different than they are? And I'm like, yeah, probably not. Right. So, but people are good by nature. That's really my feeling. And I think we need to approach it that way. I had the honor of being at a networking group this morning. I got a chance to speak, and I went there with positive expectations. It was early morning, and I could have, oh man, I don't know how many people can actually show. Who cares? I was like, you know what? I'm going to bless one person. I'm going to be a blessing. And I know Kevin is a big proponent of the kindness factor. So we're going to speak about that. But being others focused, a big pillar of our show is about being others focused and, being a go-giver like Bob Berg speaks about and John David Mann in their book. So it's going to be an incredible show. Again, let's be positive. Let's look for the good in things. Let's look at the silver lining, it's cliche, but look at things, the glass half full versus glass empty. And you'll be surprised how much easier life will be and how success will just be attracted to you. Because I learned in the book, Think and Grow Rich, success cannot happen without a positive, pleasing mental attitude. It's just the way it is. It's actual, a principle, success principle. So anyway, we're going to get into it. It's going to be awesome. So if you're ready for my man, Mr. Robbie G, to introduce our incredible guest, type in the comments. Let's go. And Robbie G, I have to pass it to you.
All right, let's go, everybody. Kevin Smith has lived his life guided by the belief that the meaning of life is to live it in a way to make a meaningful difference. After graduating Phi Beta Kappa from Gettysburg College and climbing the corporate ladder to director at a Fortune 500 company, he walked away to found Smith Wealth Advisory Group, where he built one of the nation's top advisory teams recognized by Barron's, Forbes, and the Financial Times. But his most meaningful pursuit began in 2023, when the simple act of a stranger returning his lost wallet sparked the creation of Kindness Worldwide, a global nonprofit dedicated to making kindness a shared value across communities and nations. Today, Kevin's mission is nothing less than to inspire a worldwide culture of kindness, an endeavor he calls his greatest purpose yet. Please welcome to the show, Kevin Smith. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, how's it going?
Going good, man. Good to have you.
It's great to be here. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Excellent.
We have the chief kindness seeker. Is that what your title is?
Kindness chaser. That was actually a
Chaser.
moniker some school children actually gave me. I visited their school and they called me the chief kindness chaser, and I liked it, so it stuck.
There you go. The CKC, right? There's all sorts of C levels. You're a different kind of C level. Appreciate you big time. Excited to have you on the show. By the way, before we get too far here, I want to acknowledge Pat Kennedy, new to the show, recent connection with, was introduced to Pat recently, had a great call with her. Ben is acknowledging being on. It's great having you on here. And then Chris, right? He acknowledged that he could relate. He's a recovering negative guy too. My brother keeps the pattern. He says, you're optimistic and I'm realistic. He's not ready to change. Yeah, we have a lot of those people in our life. And we got Michael on here. He's back again. Great to have you on there. Let's go. And Gary Phillips, looks like that's one of your connections. Great, Gary, great having you on the show. And I just want to acknowledge Ben says, I actively practice positivity each morning when I wake up because I naturally go to negativity. It's not always an easy practice, but absolutely worth it. Yeah, I said this, and then we're going to get into this, and Gary gives us a fiery. I've said this, I think, before. My mentors explained to me that your positive and negative meter, right? Often we're, like he described it, we're like an SUV parked on a steep hill, and you got to apply pressure, that handbrake, because otherwise it'd roll backwards, and the negativity is roll backwards. If you don't on purpose apply some kind of force, you're just going to be negative by default. So you got the positivity is, in my opinion, it's an on-purpose event as well. So anyway, let's dig into this. Great to have you. We're talking about kindness. So let's get into that community. Type in hashtag kindness. And before that, great having the amazing Yolanda Chin on with us once again. Listen, connect with Yolanda. She's amazing. She is just an incredible community member here. And Michael is thanking us here. So here's the question. How have you seen small acts of kindness create a ripple effect that changed a person's life or community?
Well, I've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
The story of kindness worldwide is proof that no act of kindness is too small to make a difference and change a life, and that anyone can make a lasting impact. And I would argue even change the world through kind actions. I was a beneficiary of an act of kindness on Good Friday morning, 2023. I lost my wallet at a grocery store. A moment I realized it was missing when I returned home. There's a young Good Samaritan woman in my driveway holding my wallet, asking if it was mine. And from that point on, in a simple attempt to identify who this young woman was, thank her in a more meaningful way, it literally assumed a life of its own that continues to this day, a fascinating adventure. And it became about making a meaningful difference. The ripple effects of this one act of kindness have ultimately inspired me to form the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide, which has a vision to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. This act of kindness has brought people and communities together throughout the world to celebrate what I believe is humanity's greatest asset, which is kindness. There are people alive today that would not be here otherwise were it not for the ripple effects of this one act of kindness. And so I think we often underestimate the power we each possess as individuals to simply choose to be kind and the implications that can have on ourselves and for others. The beauty of this story is that we can trace the ripple effects to one original act of kindness. But I would argue that each and every one of us, each and every day, does simple acts of kindness that have just the profound ripple effects, just the profound, vast implications. We may not never see them or never know what they are, but they are just as profound, just as meaningful, and we all have that choice, that power within us, simply to choose to be kind.
I want to share a story of this because, years ago, I'm an Italian guy from the suburbs of New York. We're not raised kind. It's almost like you show you love your friends by, giving them a hard time, and it's rarely kind. But
kind is weakness. That's how we were taught, right?
Yeah, that's right. But one time, I took my family, which included, my son-in-law, and first time we all went away as a family to Rhode Island. And we pulled up to this Airbnb, this house, and the guy next door, the neighbor who apparently lived there, came out, and he was loaded for bear. He was like, "You can't park your cars there in this street. People come ripping around, and then we got accidents over here, didn't they?" And he's ripping me a new one. And my son-in-law is standing right there. And I simply said to the guy, now a lot of people, especially us Italians, we would have ripped that guy up and down back, right? Because that's how people do it. They fight fire with fire. But I said to him, I said, "Hey," I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "No, they didn't let us know. I'm going to move these cars right now. Where's the best place to put them? I respect the fact that you live here year round, and we don't want to be a nuisance to you." His whole demeanor changed. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry I came off that way. It's just," and he went on to say, "Hey, you know what? I make pickles. I'm going to drop you off a jar of pickles. We got pickles. And my family loves pickles. It just happened to be that." And so he delivered this massive jar of homemade pickles. My family was ecstatic. This guy was my new best friend. And my son-in-law said, "I'm really impressed the way you handled that guy. I was ready for a fight." And so the act of kindness in the face of anger diffused that moment. And I got to tell you, it was a real defining moment for me because my son-in-law reflected it back to me because I was taught that, right? Kevin, your experience and that experience for me, it taught me a very valuable lesson about kindness, especially in the face of anger.
Well, what you just demonstrated, Rob, is exactly why kindness is a strength. Because our natural inclination, most in that situation would have responded in kind, so to speak, with more unkindness. And I would argue that math is wrong. In math, a negative times a negative is a positive.
Hmm.
Well, let's apply that to the world of kindness. If you are experiencing unkindness and you respond with unkindness, nothing good happens whatsoever. But what you did is you took a negative, you took unkindness, and you responded in a positive way with kindness. Now, in math, that's a negative. It's positive, right? So it's a matter of flipping the script, because what you did is you disarmed and diffused a situation. It could have escalated.
Yeah.
Nothing bad happens when you're kind. Only good things happen when you're kind. You can't fail being kind. And I would argue that, our world's challenges today may seem numerous and complex, but the solutions are really simple. It's really, the solutions are kindness. Because every issue we face in the world today, I would argue, at its core, is caused by unkindness. But if we simply view kindness as a strength, instead of pointing the finger at others, which we cannot control, there's a lot of finger pointing that can go around. It solves nothing. But my world began to change when I looked in the mirror and I pointed it at me, because I realized that it's me that needs to do better. It's me that needs to be better. It's me that needs to be the change I wish for. I have the ability to be the best version of myself. I have the ability to choose to be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. And if I do that and lead by my own example, hopefully I can inspire others to do the same. And I can control that, focus on my circle of influence instead of dwelling on my circle of concern.
I love it. Yeah. One of our good friends, mutual friends, Hugh, says, control the controllables, and you can only control your actions and your thought process. You can't control anyone else. But I want to acknowledge Ben saying he likes to stay outside, no news for him. But he also said this, he needs to practice fighting fire with kindness. That's good. And by the way, welcome, Lanika. I don't think she's been on the show before. Welcome. And she loves it. She says, how to make friends instead of enemies. Yeah. I don't know if that's a question or statement, or how we make, I guess is what she's saying. Yeah. And that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I probably could have wrote another book called How to Make Enemies and Piss Off People. That was the book I should have wrote, because I was like the argumentative guy, because I just thought, if you one up somebody, you're in a better place than them, right? Again, to Rob's point about I'm a Bronx kid from, just with an edge about me, right? So it's crazy, but honestly, it's the goodness. And I think that's what we want to talk about, finding the good in situations and good in people. But by the way, before we get into that, I want to just acknowledge Gary had something to say here. So for me, 26 years of recovery, collections has taught me that kindness will diffuse most situations, and kindness allows you to emphasize and come to a solution without allowing emotions to control the conversation. Love that. It's great. Sorry, guys, I'm dyslexic, so reading long stuff, it can be hard for me. So appreciate your grace on that. But let's get into goodness. All right. So community, type in #goodness. So Kevin, what practical ways can leaders train themselves to look for the good in people rather than their flaws, please?
Well, I think there's an adage, the buck stops here. And I think it's leaders, we need to lead by our example. And I think it starts with just being confident, secure in who we are as individuals, and our values and our principles. And people are looking for leadership now more than ever. And so anyone who's in a leadership role, whether you are an elected official, whether you're in the media, whether you're in the corporate world, or even just as individual citizens, children are looking for role models. Yeah. And, whether we realize it or not, many of us are always on camera, or someone is always watching, especially our youth, especially our children. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think when you have strong values and principles, and lead by them, lead by example, others will follow. And if you want to get the most out of your people, then just lead them, believe in your people. Instead of seeing their flaws, we're all flawed. Every single one of us have flaws. None of us are perfect. But if you believe in your people and you lead by your example, often that you can see qualities in them that they don't even see themselves. See the good in them and believe in them. And if you lead by your example, they will inevitably believe in you, and they will follow, and your organizations will be transformed, your communities will be transformed. But it all begins with leading with kindness.
Love that. That's great. I do want to acknowledge real quick, couple of great comments here. So first of all, Lonica's chiming in with, when we become what we wish, we see the world. It cannot help but ripple out. Love the pickle story. Rob, she loves your story. There you go. And then, Chris is saying, old Chris relates to old Steve. Learned, I'd rather be happy or right. Would I rather be happy or right? I heard a good mentor who was incredibly successful. He said, would you rather be rich or right? So, same idea, right? Anyway, Yolanda, appreciate you. Obviously, Chris. And then lastly, Ann. Welcome, Ann. I don't know if she's been on the show before, but Ann, great having you here. First time tuning in. Okay, there she is. Okay, that answers that. This is great. Thank you for the invite. Kindness is free. Goodness. Yeah, and one of our sponsors of the show, Russ Hedge, he always speaks about kindness. He says kindness is free. I think that's his slogan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So, but this is great. And I don't know if you remember. Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead. I'd rather hear you.
In the business world, we often focus on ROI, return on investment, right?
Yeah.
I believe a precursor to ROI is ROK, return on kindness, because kindness is free. It costs nothing, yet the benefit is infinitesimal. If you have a culture of kindness in the workplace, productivity improves, which translates to profitability. Employee absenteeism and retention improves. Health outcomes are better because being kind, having a culture of kindness reduces cortisol, reduces stress. So people are healthier. That reduces your healthcare cost. So I would argue that a key to ROI is ROK, return on kindness. It costs nothing. It's very simple, but extremely effective with outcomes.
Love it. That's great. It looks like got some more folks joining us. Brian, I don't think he's been on the show before. It's a beautiful day. Great to have you on here. And Ann, again, I appreciate you. Keep the comments
up in there for a second. This is a little delay in what Kevin just said. And I was thinking about what you just said about the outcomes. And I got to tell you, I think this is probably the most valuable thing because, people are like, you're being kind. I say hi to my neighbors and they don't understand how it's applied to their business. And to me, I'm always thinking about business because I love business is like a game to me, right? But people are involved. So how do we work with people in a positive way? And I started to think about outcomes. And the thing I noticed, and tell me, if this is something I noticed, tell me, Kevin, if this is a strategy, if this is something that everybody just knows, or can they learn it? When you're negative, you go backwards because you hang on to things. And in business, success favors speed. And the moment you stop moving forward, you stop succeeding. Negativity stops you in your tracks because you have to pay attention to something that's negative. It's never moving you forward. It's never adding to the equation of success. Can you talk a little bit about that? Am I the only one who kind of sees this, or what is this?
No, you're absolutely right. Well, apply that to sports. I mean, your best athletes, whether it be in football, basketball, baseball, right? You can get in your head, right? And you can dwell on all the shots that you missed. But you got to keep shooting, and you got to you got to be in the moment. You got to focus on your next play. And business is no different. Look, you learn from mistakes as well. I think it's how we perceive mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. But when you apply a mistake as a lesson, a life lesson in many cases, or a business lesson, you get better. But if you dwell on them and you dwell on that negativity, I believe you get back from the universe what you put into it. And call it karma, call it what you will, law of attraction. You mentioned some wonderful books, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, I'm a big advocate. See it, believe it, achieve it, become it. And we are a product of our thoughts. So again, see the good in people and in others and in ourselves. It really does start with ourselves in many respects, because a lot of kindness or unkindness is because of some personal trauma. And people are projecting that because of weakness. They haven't dealt with their trauma, or they're trying to project their strength like a command and a control approach by belittling others or seeing the bad in others. It really does start with looking in the mirror and being the best versions of ourselves, because until we can do that, it's going to be very difficult to be the best around others.
I love that. That's great. So we got a couple of contributions here I just want to acknowledge. So Pat Kennedy, she says kindness, giving a smile to someone is an act of kindness. Most acts of kindness are free. Love it. And Kevin, you're so right about ROK. Brand and reputation are a huge impact of business value, part of a component called goodwill, and it began to be called that for a reason. How you treat others always comes back somehow. It's awesome. Yeah, it's great. So let's keep this ball rolling. Listen, what we talked about is how you act, how you treat, how you look at things. It's all a choice. So I want to talk about choice. So community, type in #choice. Here's your question. Why is choosing to see the good in others such a powerful decision, even when circumstances are tough? Rob talked about the pickle story, right? And how he could have easily taken that circumstances and attacked. So how are we seeing the good in others, even if there's a circumstance that happens to be tough like that?
I think you certainly bring out the best in people. When you see the good in others, yes, I mean, we're all flawed. I think people make mistakes. I think if we view mistakes that others make, if you're in a position of leadership or a manager, pointing out, counseling, mentoring, treating them as learning experiences, but seeing the best in others, seeing talents in others, often they don't even believe that they even know they possess. I mean, I was in the corporate world for many years, very successful corporate career before I started my wealth advisory practice. And I've always been one, I felt the number one responsibility of any manager, any leader was to make yourself expendable, which kind of goes against the paradigm of the corporate world because we're all worried about protecting ourselves, especially the further the ladder we go. But the best leaders are those who try to mentor their teams and bring out the best of them. And they often see skills and talents that they don't even know they possess. And when you believe in others, all right, and you see the good in others, they will see the good in you and they will believe in you and they will follow you. That's what will make you a good leader. Look, you can't have a good organization, a good team. You can't have a good community without good leadership. And I would argue in many cases, the challenges we have in the world today is a failure of leadership. We have a chronic failure of leadership across the board. Just because you're an elected official doesn't make you a leader. I see a lot of people that are elected influencers that are more selfish instead of being selfless and focused on the greater good. And I see people, the media that can do better. We all can do better. If we all want our world to be a better place, and we're all part of this global community, it does truly start with us. And being better, small changes can lead to very big impacts. It doesn't take much. And Margaret Mead has a great quote, my favorite quote. She says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And we each have the ability to be just that, to be that ripple, to become a wave, to literally change the world.
Love it.
Wow, that's powerful. One of the things that we were talking about here with choice, I heard this a long time ago because it's very easy to be in a situation where somebody's, being combative and we think it's about us. And you might agree or disagree with this, but what I found is it's usually about them. And so what I heard many years ago was a mentor actually said to me personally, he said, "Rob," he goes, "you want to make sure that you're always treating people with kindness because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors." And that one statement really made an impact on me because I always thought, and I've taught my kids this, same thing. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So if somebody's getting angry with you, remember something. Most of the time, they're not angry with you. They're angry at some situation of theirs. So that's how you can reach out in kindness and say, "Hey, is everything okay?"
And that's exactly the importance of empathy. I mean, often we make it about us. We get defensive right away instead of trying to put ourselves in their shoes and what is causing them to act that way. We all have stories. And there's many things behind the scenes we may not ever know. But instead of assuming the worst, let's assume the best. Let's try to be in their world and to be more, practice more empathy and compassion. And really there's 8 characteristics of kindness identify this journey. And if we want to hold each other accountable, including ourselves, we need to define kindness and break it down to its individual elements. Those characteristics are gratitude, patience, forgiveness, empathy and compassion, respect, joy, generosity, and service. And if we try to be mindful, try to be respectful, we may not always agree, but we can disagree better. We can disagree with civility and respect. I mean, we're seeing a lot in our discourse and the political rhetoric, and people are literally being assassinated now because we disagree with them. Well, we got to do better. We all have to do better. Our words matter, but it begins with respect, civility, empathy, all those 8 characteristics, and we can control each and every one.
I love it. Listen, great stuff. This is amazing. We can go on for another hour here, but we are at the bottom of the hour. So just please, you incredibly blessed our community here. Please, and so many of you, I haven't acknowledged Brian and Ari is on, and we've got Chris here chiming in again, and Samuel Kimu, who's I think he likes to be called Kim. Really appreciate you guys. But Kevin, what's the best way our community reach you? Final sentence, because we literally got to jump.
Yeah, well, visit kindnessworldwide.org. We all can be part of this magical story. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, but the easiest is visit kindnessworldwide.org. We welcome everyone to be part of this meaningful movement, and together we can and we will change the world.
Love it. We're changing the world one person at a time. Love you. Love the message. Love everything you're doing here. Appreciate you, Kevin. I'll see you in the green room. It's going to keep things rolling here. Thank you again for being a blessing. Appreciate you. Okay. All right. Well, that was amazing. Wow. All right. So listen, if you think that was amazing, you tune in next week, the 24th. It's our 230th episode. Scott McGregor, amazing man. You don't want to miss it. What it means to be an outlier. It's going to be incredible. And if you're interested in being a sponsor in the show or being a guest, as Rod said, go to masterconnector.show. Lots of good information there, and you'll see why it would make a lot of sense to be a part of this community. I want to finish up with a closing story here, right? So Oprah winning author and humanitarian Greg Mortensen was once a mountaineer who failed to summit K2, and on his descent was taken in by a tiny Pakistani village. Instead of seeing only hardship in their poverty, he saw the good in their generosity and pledged to build them a school, a promise that grew into more than 170 schools and programs educating tens of thousands of children across Pakistan and Afghanistan. His story is a reminder to our community that noticing the good in others can spark world-changing actions. Folks, let's make sure to look at the good side of circumstances and in other people and lead with kindness so we can ultimately be the light to this dark world. Love you guys. See you next week. God bless.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.